Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we explore the remarkable journey of a pioneering rock and roll icon whose explosive piano style and unforgettable performances defined an era. From his humble beginnings in Ferriday, Louisiana, through his meteoric rise to fame at Sun Records, Jerry Lee Lewis earned a reputation as one of music's most electrifying performers. Yet his life off stage was marked by controversy, personal challenges, and tragedy that would follow him throughout his career. Childhood. Jerry Lee Lewis's early years in Ferriday, Louisiana set the stage for a life that was both modest and full of possibilities. Born on September the 29th, 1935, he came into the world during the Great Depression, an era marked by widespread economic hardship in the United States. Despite these difficult circumstances, his parents recognized his extraordinary musical inclination from an early age. Determined to nurture his talent, they went as far as mortgaging their farm to purchase a piano for their son, an almost unthinkable sacrifice for a family that likely had few financial resources to spare. This singular act not only spotlights the faith they had in young Jerry's abilities, but also underscores the familial support that would prove foundational to his future stardom. The environment in which Lewis learned to play further illuminates his musical roots. Training alongside two of his cousins, Mickey Gilley, later a country music star, and Jimmy Swaggart, who gained fame as a televangelist, suggests that music was not just an individual pursuit, but a communal activity deeply intertwined with family relationships and spiritual sensibilities. Practicing together in Friday's close-knit world, they exposed each other to gospel influences, country stylings, and early rock-infused rhythms. Each developed a distinct pathway in entertainment or ministry, but all three shared an early bond in that small Louisiana town, a testament to how budding talents can emerge from the same local scene. The second paragraph, a more philosophical reflection, resonates in a broader sense when we think about Jerry Lee Lewis's life. The adage that happiness is like a pyramid can be interpreted in light of his meteoric climb to fame. The higher he rose, the more he sacrificed simpler joys and normalcy. Perhaps his parents, in mortgaging their livelihood for a piano, also experienced how chasing one dream can entail letting go of stability. Their decision literally put their farm, and by extension, their future on the line for the sake of Jerry's musical passion. Although these sentiments read like life lessons, they align neatly with the journey we see unfolding. Lewis's aggressive approach to performing, his unrelenting quest for stardom, and the controversies that unfolded suggest he frequently chose to grasp certain desires while letting go of others, often at a high personal cost. The philosophical note that anything can be let go of, but joy cannot be let go is particularly poignant for an artist whose greatest solace may well have been found in music. Through the storms of scandal, personal tragedies, and professional setbacks, the ability to play piano and perform for an audience remained a consistent source of both identity and emotional release. From these early glimpses, it is clear that Jerry Lee Lewis was not merely a child whose parents bought him an instrument. He was someone whose entire family placed faith in his destiny, willing to put tangible resources and intangible hopes on the line. This high-stakes beginning would shape the man who, for better or worse, lived his life at the extremes, propelling him to the top floors of that metaphorical pyramid, while also revealing the trials one faces upon ascending to such heights. Family life for Jerry Lee Lewis was filled with both love and heartbreak. Over the course of his life, he fathered 6 children, a number that underscores his enduring desire for kinship and legacy, even as he struggled with the demands of a public career. 2 of these children, Steve Allen Lewis and Jerry Lee Lewis Jr., tragically died at tender ages, experiences that would have profound emotional and psychological consequences for any parent. The loss of Steve Allen Lewis at just 3 years old in 1962 was a cruel blow. A swimming pool accident might seem like a mundane household risk, but its catastrophic result left an unfillable void. For a global music star who appeared so invincible on stage, the tragedy revealed the fragility of personal life behind the spotlight. That Jerry Lee Lewis continued performing and recording even in the wake of such sorrow speaks to a resilience that characterizes many driven performers. Yet one wonders if the heartbreak lingered in his performances. Listeners might even detect echoes of sadness, defiance, or reflection in some of his subsequent recordings, though the direct emotional link can be speculative. A second devastating loss came in, even beyond these tragedies. The presence of 6 children suggests a complex domestic dynamic. Multiple marriages, a hectic touring schedule, and the scrutiny of the press would have made stable family life challenging. Some children were caught up in the swirl of controversy, often overshadowed by headlines focusing on Jerry's professional or romantic entanglements. Still, the magnitude of these losses often resonates through the entire family tree, influencing everything from sibling relationships to how future generations perceive the family legacy. When placed alongside the philosophical commentary from his childhood section about letting go, joy, and the pursuit of happiness, his family story becomes even more poignant. The heartbreak of losing 2 children is, for many, among the most unimaginable sorrows. Yet he pushed forward, recording country hits, rebranding his career multiple times, and largely remaining in the public eye. This dichotomy of public resilience and private grief underscores the depth of Jerry Lee Lewis's personal struggles, adding layers to his public persona that many fans never fully recognized. Career. In December 1956, Lewis began recording prolifically as a solo artist and as a session musician for other Sun artists, including Carl Perkins and Johnny Cash. His distinctive piano playing can be heard on many tracks recorded at Sun in late 1956 and early 1957, including Carl Perkins's Matchbox, Your True Love, and Put Your Cat Clothes On, and Billy Lee Riley's Flying Saucers, Rock and Roll. Lewis's own singles advanced his career as a soloist during 1957 with hits such as Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On, a big Maybelle cover, and Great Balls of Fire, his biggest hit, bringing him international fame despite criticism for the songs, which prompted some radio stations to boycott them. His dynamic performance style can be seen in films such as High School Confidential and Jamboree. He has been called rock and roll's first great wild man, and also rock and roll's first great eclectic classical composer. Michael Nyman has also cited Lewis's style as the progenitor of his own aesthetic. In 1960, Lewis recorded his only major hit during this period, a rendition of Ray Charles's What Did I Say in 1961. In Europe, other updated versions of Sweet Little 16 and Good Golly Miss Molly entered the hit parade on popular EPs. Hang Up My Rock and Roll Shoes, I've Been Twistin', Money, and Hello Josephine also became turntable hits, especially in nascent discotheques. Another recording of Lewis playing an instrumental boogie arrangement of the Glenn Miller Orchestra favorite In the Mood was issued on the Philips International label under the pseudonym The Hawk. Lewis's Sun recording contract ended in 1963, and he joined Smash Records, where he made a number of rock recordings that did not further his career. Mercury, the parent company of Smash, did not really know what to do with Lewis after that. One of Smash's first decisions was to record a retread of his Sun hits Golden Hits of Jerry Lee Lewis, which was inspired by the continuing enthusiasm European fans had shown for Lewis's firebrand rock and roll. In June 1963, Lewis returned to the UK for the first time since the scandal that nearly ended his career 5 years earlier, headlining a performance on the MV Royal Daffodil for a cross-channel rock and roll cruise from Southend, Essex, UK, to Boulogne, France. For this performance, he was backed by Ritchie Blackmore and the Outlaws. However, despite his successful live tours, none of Lewis's early smash albums, including The Return of Rock, Memphis Beat, and Soul My Way, were commercial successes. One major success during these lost years was the concert album Live at the Star Club Hamburg, recorded with the Nashville Teens in 1964, which is considered one of the greatest live albums ever. The results were sonically astonishing, with Bonomo observing that Siggy Locke captured something brutally honest about the killer, about the primal and timeless center of the very best rock and roll. In a 5 out of 5 stars review, Milo Miles wrote in Rolling Stone magazine that Live at the Star Club Hamburg is not an album, it's a crime scene. Jerry Lee Lewis slaughters his rivals in a 13-song set that feels like one long convulsion. Lewis recorded the Jerry Chestnut song, Another Place, Another Time, which was released as a single on March 9, 1968, and to everyone's amazement, it shot up the country charts. At the time of its release, Lewis had been playing Iago in a rock and roll adaptation of Othello called Catch My Soul in Los Angeles, but was soon rushed back to Nashville to record another batch of songs with producer Jerry Kennedy. What followed was a string of hits that no one could have ever predicted. Although country music had always remained a major part of Lewis's repertoire, the last time Lewis had a song on the country charts was with Pen and Paper in 1964, which had reached number 36. But Another Place, Another Time would go all the way to number 4 and remain on the charts for 17 weeks. Between 1968 and 1977, Lewis had 17 top 10 hit singles on the Billboard Country chart. The production on his early country albums, such as Another Place, Another Time, and She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye, was sparse, quite different from the slick Nashville sound that was predominant on country radio at the time, and also expressed a full commitment by Lewis to a country audience. In a remarkable turnaround, Lewis became the most bankable country star in the world. He was so huge in 1970 that his former smash producer, Shelby Singleton, who purchased Sun Records from Sam Phillips in July 1969, wasted no time in repackaging many of Lewis's old country recordings with such effectiveness that many fans assumed they were recent releases. One of his later unreleased Sun recordings, 1 Minute Past Eternity, was issued as a single and soared to number 2 on the country chart. Following Lewis's recent Mercury hit, She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye, Singleton would milk these unreleased recordings for years, following the golden cream of the country with A Taste of Country. Later in 1970, Lewis returned to the pop charts with Me and Bobby McGee in 1971 and Chantilly Lace in 1972. This turn of events, coupled with a revitalized public interest in vintage rock and roll, led to a remake of Lewis's old Sun-cut Drinkin' Wine Spo D.O.D., appearing on an album that would have the hit single and reach number 20 on the Billboard Country chart, peaking at number 41 on the pop chart. The session would be Lewis's highest pop charting album since 1964's Golden Hits of Jerry Lee Lewis, hitting number 37. It did far better on the country albums chart, rising to number 4. His last big hit with Mercury was Middle Age Crazy, which made it to number 4 in 1977. Scandal. Perhaps no event in Jerry Lee Lewis's life cast as long a shadow as the scandal of 1958, when it was revealed that he had married his 13-year-old first cousin once removed, Myra Gale Brown. At the time, Lewis was at the top of his game, an international star whose singles had sparked a worldwide fascination with rock and roll. However, once the news broke, the world's perception of him soured almost overnight. Although controversy raged on both sides of the Atlantic, the backlash in the United Kingdom was especially fierce. UK radio stations, already wary of rock and roll's perceived immorality, instituted boycotts of Jerry Lee Lewis's music. British journalists hounded him for comments, turning what had been a triumphant UK tour into a PR disaster. As the outrage grew, his concert bookings dwindled, forcing him to return stateside abruptly. Back in the United States, the scandal collided with the wholesome image mainstream media wanted to project for American pop culture during the late 1950s. The fact that Myra was family and so young fed into societal fears about the morally corrupting nature of rock and roll. Lewis, once celebrated for his groundbreaking artistry, became a symbol of rock and roll excess gone wrong. The scandal bruised his career to the point that many believed it might never recover. Promoters canceled gigs, record sales slumped, and public opinion soured. Yet Jerry Lee Lewis's subsequent actions demonstrated a certain resilience. Even though it would take years for his image to stabilize, he never fully vanished from the scene. By the early 1960s, he had begun reestablishing himself with performances in Europe and smaller U.S. venues. This era required him to adapt to a more subdued popularity, fighting for each opportunity to prove that his talent still outweighed the infamy attached to his personal life. It was also a period that likely laid the groundwork for his shift toward country music, where a different audience, more attuned to themes of heartbreak and redemption, might be more accepting of a tarnished star's attempt at reinvention. The scandal's role in his eventual pivot to country cannot be overstated. If he had remained the undisputed king of rock and roll, perhaps he never would have taken that path. But in grappling with a damaged reputation, he discovered that a segment of the music community was willing to offer him another chance based on artistic merit. Over time, the sting of 1958 softened, replaced by the narrative of an enduring performer who had faced adversity and continued to play passionately. In short, the scandal was a watershed moment for Jerry Lee Lewis. It was both the darkest hour of his public life and an event that forced him to change course. The music world at large also took note. After 1958, the lines between a performer's private life and public persona grew more distinctly policed. Rock and roll had already been labeled as rebellious, but now there was tangible evidence in the public's eyes of just how far that rebellion might go. Jerry Lee Lewis bore the brunt of that moral panic, permanently linking his name to a controversy that, in many ways, redefined the boundaries of celebrity conduct. Actrage. If there is a dimension of Jerry Lee Lewis's life more dramatic than his music career, it may be his marital history, which spanned a total of 7 marriages. Such a winding path through matrimony underscores a persistent search for stability, companionship, or perhaps an unending restlessness. Examining these marriages provides vital insights into the personal complexities of a man whose public persona often overshadowed any hope for ordinary domestic life. The pattern commenced when he was just 16, marrying Dorothy Barton, a preacher's daughter. In a conventional sense, this would already be considered too young for matrimony, hinting at Lewis's tendency to move quickly without concern for societal norms. Their union lasted a mere 20 months, from February 1952 to October 1953, just long enough for Lewis to assert a youthful independence, but too brief to build a stable foundation. His second marriage, to Jane Mitchum, began under a legal cloud. It happened 23 days before his divorce from Dorothy Barton was final, raising immediate questions about its legitimacy. By this point, Lewis was already flirting with success at Sun Records. The tension between a quickly evolving music career and hasty domestic commitments likely put strain on the relationship. They lasted 4 years and had 2 children, Jerry Lee Lewis Jr. and Ronnie Guy Lewis. Even as a father, Lewis was juggling late-night recording sessions, traveling for gigs, and navigating the earliest signs of stardom. The marriage ended in 1957, setting the stage for his most controversial move yet. The third marriage, to Myra Gale Brown, was sensational enough to become the main impetus for the scandal previously discussed. Although the ceremony took place on December 12, 1957, he technically needed to remarry her on June 4, 1958, due to legal technicalities with his pending divorce from Mitchum. As the entire world soon learned, Myra was not only 13 but also his first cousin, once removed. This relationship triggered a global backlash, culminating in canceled tours, plummeting record sales, and a tarnished reputation that took years to mend. Nevertheless, the marriage lasted until 1970, producing 2 children, Steve Allen Lewis and Phoebe Allen Lewis. The eventual divorce, predicated on allegations of adultery and abuse, underscored the volatile environment in which they lived. Lewis's subsequent unions were similarly beset with sorrow or abrupt endings. His fourth marriage to Jaron Elizabeth Gunn Pate ended tragically when she drowned shortly before their divorce could be finalized. They had 1 daughter, Lori Lee Lewis. His fifth marriage to Sean Stevens lasted a mere 77 days in 1983, once again concluding in her death. Each episode suggests that while Jerry Lee Lewis could captivate millions on stage, his private world was a tempest of complications, heartbreak, and in some instances, grim misfortune. A brighter chapter emerged with his 6th marriage to Carrie McCarver, which spanned 21 years from April 1984 to June 2005, and produced a child named Jerry Lee Lewis III. Compared to his earlier unions, this partnership offered a degree of stability. However, it did not last indefinitely. They eventually parted ways, paving the path for his 7th and most recent marriage to Judith Lewis on March 9, 2012. Collectively, these 7 marriages reveal how the man behind the music lived as fervently off stage as he performed on it. His repeated leaps into matrimony, sometimes under contentious or heartbreaking circumstances, reflect the same impulsive energy that infused his pioneering rock and roll. The complexities of these relationships cannot be fully separated from his artistry. The heartbreak, controversies, and fleeting moments of devotion were likely threads woven through his songwriting and performance style. As we piece together his private life, it's evident that Jerry Lee Lewis's musical rebellion was paralleled by equally radical personal choices, fueling a life story as tumultuous as any rock and roll lyric. Other relationships. The decision to sever business ties with his daughter, Phoebe Lewis Lofton, the day after marrying his 7th wife, Judith, was a jarring departure from the familial collaborations Jerry Lee Lewis had maintained over decades. Phoebe had been acting as his manager and held power of attorney, positions that signified substantial trust and influence. Why Lewis chose that moment to revoke her role remains a matter of speculation. It might have been prompted by disagreements over finances, new dynamics introduced by his marriage to Judith, or a desire to simplify his life. In any case, the abruptness suggests that, even in the twilight of his career, personal and professional lines remained blurred and complicated. Beyond family, Jerry Lee Lewis cultivated high-profile associations in the music world. From the earliest days at Sun Records, he was intertwined with other legends like Carl Perkins and Johnny Cash. Together they shaped the crucial framework of rockabilly and early rock music, bridging the raw edge of electric rhythm and blues with country roots. Later he formed alliances with Chuck Berry and Little Richard, arguably the only two performers whose flamboyance and audacity could rival his own. When these titans toured Europe in 1998, it became a seismic event for rock and roll enthusiasts, providing an opportunity for fans to see three pillars of a musical revolution share the stage. Moreover, Jerry Lee Lewis's collaboration with producer T-Bone Burnett indicates his willingness to explore modern production sensibilities. Known for bridging American roots music with contemporary twists, Burnett often works with established artists to reimagine their sound. This collaboration suggests that Lewis, even after decades in the industry, was open to creative rejuvenation, proof that his passion for music ran deeper than mere nostalgia. In 2013, Lewis opened a new club on Beale Street in Memphis, an iconic corridor revered for its historic role in blues and early rock culture. By planting a business along that celebrated avenue, Lewis not only paid homage to his own Memphis roots, but also ensured that his legacy remained embedded in the city's living tapestry. For fans, the club is a pilgrimage site where the spirit of rockabilly, rock and roll, and country mingles in the very spot that nurtured pioneers of each genre. Lewis's presence there is a testament to how strongly Memphis shaped him, and how strongly he, in turn, influenced Memphis's identity. Ultimately, these relationships, whether familial, musical, or business, underscore Jerry Lee Lewis's intense connections to those around him. Though controversies sometimes erupted, he surrounded himself with icons who shared his passion, as well as family members who, for a time, were entrusted with key roles in his personal affairs. This pattern of forging alliances, then abruptly shifting or ending them, mirrors the restless, often volatile energy that fueled both his greatest artistic triumphs and most publicized personal struggles. Death, the specter of mortality, emerged as early as 1981 when Jerry Lee Lewis almost died from a ruptured stomach. Such a critical health crisis could easily have ended his story prematurely, but instead, he overcame the ordeal and pressed on. This near-death experience foreshadowed the fragility that so many rock and roll stars faced, a generation known for hard living, frantic tour schedules, and the emotional toll of stardom. Yet Lewis's survival further underscores the sense of destiny that seemed to follow him, as though fate were determined to let him shape more chapters in the tapestry of popular music. By 1986, the music world recognized his monumental contributions when he became an inaugural inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Forever cementing his status among the elite of the genre he helped to pioneer. That same rebellious energy, which scandalized some in 1958, became part of his mythos by the time the Hall of Fame opened its doors. People had come to view him as a cornerstone of the music's origin story, even if his personal choices were often controversial. This institutional acknowledgement signaled that, at least in the collective memory of rock enthusiasts, Jerry Lee Lewis's influence would endure. The accolades continued with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Recording Academy on February 12, 2005, honoring his decades-long career and the boundary-breaking spirit he personified. Such recognition was followed by the 2006 release of Last Man Standing, a star-studded album that enlisted the talents of various rock luminaries. Charting in 4 different Billboard categories, including a stint at #1 on the indie charts. The album exemplified how much respect Jerry Lee Lewis still commanded among industry peers and fans. The title itself, Last Man Standing, hinted at the reality that many of his contemporaries, including Elvis Presley and Carl Perkins, were gone, while he continued to captivate listeners in the 21st century. In May 2013, he returned to his roots by opening a new club on Beale Street in Memphis, a move that symbolized coming full circle. Memphis, after all, was integral to his earliest musical revelations and successes, so staking a claim there late in his career reinforced his lasting influence on that city's cultural fabric. It also offered him a physical base to connect with fans, serve as a living piece of music history, and possibly nurture fresh talent. Though he remained active, performing live and maintaining public presence, his health challenges inevitably increased with time. A stroke on February 28, 2019, forced him to cancel shows, a poignant reminder that even a legend has physical limitations. Nonetheless, in March 2020, word spread that he was back in the recording studio, this time with producer T-Bone Burnett, to work on gospel covers. This project was particularly fitting. Lewis had grown up amidst gospel and religious influences in Louisiana, so returning to that spiritual foundation in his later years had a sense of poetic destiny. The celebratory live stream for his 85th birthday on October 27, 2020, featuring luminaries like Willie Nelson, Elton John, Mike Love, Priscilla Presley, Joe Walsh, and more, epitomized how deeply Jerry Lee Lewis is woven into the musical canon. When figures from country, pop, rock, and other genres come together to honor one individual, it is a testament to his broad and lasting impact. Hosted by John Stamos, the event was a contemporary salute to a musician who first made his mark generations earlier. The final paragraphs echo the philosophy that underpins Jerry Lee Lewis's life. Impermanence is universal, and fleeting time makes moments of joy, love, and artistry all the more precious. Through surviving near-death experiences, personal scandals, and professional highs and lows, Jerry Lee Lewis's life journey is a testament to both the volatility of fame and the invincible spark of creativity. The cautionary aspects are clear. Scandals and tragedies marred parts of his legacy. Yet his rebellious spirit and musical genius ensured his place in rock history and connected him to fans across decades. He stands as both a living legend and a reminder that genius often comes paired with tumult, forging a path that shapes our collective understanding of what it means to be an artist who will not, or perhaps cannot, conform. The story of Jerry Lee Lewis is both an inspiring chronicle of musical innovation and a cautionary tale of personal struggle. His dynamic piano playing and rebellious spirit cemented his status as one of the founding fathers of rock and roll, while his country songs revealed his unique ability to transcend genres. Despite facing scandals, tragic losses, and near-death experiences, he remains a captivating performer who continues to draw audiences into his orbit. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to support us.